You're talking first. Yeah. So, yep. Well, yeah, so just come on over here.
Okay. Hold on, let me just get this. Hi. Just in my stuff up.
Nope, I'm not up. Just Susan's number one. Joe Nathan.
Well,
Try now?
yeah, but that was on mute.
Yeah,
wasn't
I
it?
unmuted.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, test. Well, I'll speak louder than this, but
Oh, we need to move the podium. So there's that little note. Is that yours? Does not look good on TV. Sure. Yep.
This is the one you brought in.
That can stay there. Yep. Absolutely. Smoking gun.
Yeah. How long have you been? For coming. I'd first like to introduce myself. My name is Susan Debris. I'm the program manager for the Vancouver Aquarium's Great Canadian Shoreline Cleanup. And I'd like to start by welcoming everyone here today. And of course, saying thank you to the Ministry of Environment in Japan, as well as the Japanese Environmental Action Network, for helping to plan tonight's symposium. They have gathered an incredible panel of speakers today from Japan, Canada, as well as the United States. On behalf of the Vancouver Aquarium, we welcome you. I'd also truly like to take a moment to recognize the people of Japan. They are an incredible people. They have endured an immense tragedy, and they, in this time, have shown great strength during these desperate times. Now, as mentioned, I represent the Great Canadian Shoreline Cleanup, and this is a national volunteer program taking place every year in every single province and territory across Canada. Shoreline litter is one of the largest threats facing our shorelines and waterways, but it is completely preventable, and this can be done through programs such as ours. Through this annual event, our volunteers head down to clean their local shorelines, while also bringing awareness about the impacts shoreline litter can have on our environment, as well as strongly promoting the actions that we can take to help. And I'm proud to support this network of dedicated volunteers who really share the sense of pride and ownership for cleaner shorelines throughout Canada. But not only do these volunteers clean our local shorelines across our country, we contribute to something larger known as the International Coastal Cleanup. If you don't know, this is one of the world's largest volunteer-led efforts for cleaner shorelines. And truly together we are having a positive impact on our global waterways. Which raises a great point about our oceans. Our oceans connect us. And this is something that became quite clear following the devastating earthquake in Japan during March of 2011. The floating articles and debris that have reached North American coastlines and the movement of these items is what we've been brought here tonight to discuss and provide you with updates on. You'll be hearing some from speakers who have all been here closely monitoring the situation. I'd now like to pass this along to Azusa Kojima from JEAN, our Japan Environmental Action Network. If you could please come up and share. Thank you.
皆さんこんばんは。このシンポジウムをバンクーバー水族館とともに開催しておりますジーンの事務局長小島あずさと申します。日本の ICC でナショナルコーディネーターを務めております。本日はシンポジウムにご参加くださいましてありがとうございます。
good evening, everybody. I'm Azusa Kojima. the Secretary General of JEAN, Japan Environmental Action Network, which is co-hosting this symposium together with the Vancouver Aquarium. JEAN is also the Japanese National Coordinator of International Coastal Cleanup, ICC. First of all, I'd like to express my appreciation to you for participating in this symposium.
日本での東北地方で発生した大きな災害に対してカナダや米国をはじめ世界中の多くの方々から大きな励ましや支援をいただきましたことに心より感謝御礼申し上げます。また津波で流出した漂着物の問題でご心配をおかけしたにもかかわらずこのように関心を持ち続けてくださっていることにも感謝申し上げます。
I also like to take this opportunity to express my heartfelt appreciation to many people in Canada, the United States, and the world who have extended great support and encouragement to the people in the northern part of Japan, which was stricken by a huge disaster. I also appreciate that you continue to take interest in the issues of the driftage washed away due to tsunami, in spite of the fact that they caused some concerns for you.
ジーンは設立から25年目を迎える小さな NGO です。活動を始めるきっかけになったのが ICC でした。アメリカで ICC が始まって4年目の1990年にオーシャンコンサーバンシーの参加呼びかけを知り、日本からも参加しようと応じたのが始まりです。
Our activity started thanks to ICC. In 1990, the fourth year since the US ICC started, we learned that the Ocean Conservancy was calling for people to participate in the cleanup activity, and we decided to respond to the call.
日本では昔から海岸や川、市街地などで地域住民が清掃するボランティア活動がとても盛んです。しかしそれらの活動はゴミを拾ってきれいにすることが目的です。世界中で一斉にゴミを拾うだけではなく、ゴミのデータを取って元からゴミをなくすことを目指すという ICC の手法はとても新鮮に見えてワクワクしました。それ以来、日本での ICC での参加を募り、結果をオーシャンコンサーバンシーに報告する活動を続けております。
In Japan, there is a long tradition of community residents cleaning beaches, riverside areas, and streets on a voluntary basis. But the purpose of these activities is to pick up garbage and clean up. And the aim of the ICC, which was not just to pick up garbage all over the world on the same day, but also to take data and use it to eradicate the problem of garbage from the source of the problem, sounded very new and exciting. Since then, we have been recruiting the participants in the ICC activity in Japan and have been reporting the results to Ocean Conservancy.
日本は周囲を海に囲まれており、大小2万本を超える川があります。町の中などに散乱しているゴミは川から流れてきたり、周辺の国々から流出したゴミが各地の海岸に漂着しています。日本の ICC には毎年300カ所から3万人ほどが参加しております。この写真はジーンが主催している神奈川県の会場の様子です。
Japan is surrounded by the ocean and has more than 20,000 rivers, both small and large. Some of the litters on the streets end up in the rivers, and the garbage from neighboring countries sometimes wash up on the Japanese beaches. Every year, roughly 30,000 people participate in the ICC at about 300 sites in Japan. This photo shows that ICC site hosted by JEAN. It shows participants' group photo after the cleanup.
2011年の津波でたくさんの家や物品が海に流出しました。他の国の海岸に接近したり漂着したりして迷惑をかけてしまうかもしれず、これからどうすればいいのかを話し合うことが必要となりました。その助けとなったのが ICC のネットワークでした。
As a result of 2011 tsunami, many houses and articles were washed into the ocean. We needed to discuss what to do with these materials floating in the ocean, as they may get closer to or wash up on the beaches of other countries and may cause trouble to them.
震災の翌年に環境省の支援によってオレゴン州のポートランドに米国の西海岸とハワイの ICC のコーディネーターに集まってもらいました。 どのようなことが各地で心配されていて、どういった対策が必要なのかなどを率直に意見交換しました。これはその時の写真です。
A year after the earthquake, with the support of the Japanese Ministry of Environment, we got together with the ICC coordinators from the United States West Coast and Hawaii in Portland, Oregon, and exchanged candid opinions on what concerns people in various areas have and what means or measures needed to be taken. And this is a picture of the meeting we had.
その後、ここカナダのブリティッシュコロンビア州やハワイやアラスカでも関係者による対話や海岸視察を重ね、日本の東京と被災地の仙台で報告会などを開催することができました。
Later, we visited the beaches in British Columbia, Hawaii, and Alaska, and continued the dialogue with the people concerned. The results of our activities were reported in Tokyo and also Sendai, which is one of the areas affected by the earthquake.
この写真は仙台での報告フォーラムの様子です。
And this picture shows the forum where we reported at Sendai.
それからこちらは被災地の海岸をアラスカやハワイなどから来ていただいた皆さんに視察しているところの様子、津波で何もかもなくなった海岸の場所です。
And this shows a beach where the people from Alaska and Hawaii visited. And this is one of the beaches where everything was lost due to tsunami.
寺院では ICC のほかに漂着ごみの被害がひどい地域を調査したり、対策を進めるためのフォーラムを開催したり、国などの行政機関に対して海洋ごみ問題の改善のための提言活動も行っております。
In addition to the ICC activity, JIN is engaged in other activities such as surveying the areas badly affected by the washed up debris, hosting forums to discuss measures, and presenting recommendations to the governments on the ways to improve on the marine debris issue.
今日ご参加の皆様の多くは、日本というと東京とか大阪などの都市や富士山を思い浮かべると思いますが、3万4000キロに及ぶ長い海岸線があり、とても美しい浜辺が数多くあります。しかし、非常にアクセスが悪く、ゴミが大量に溜まっている海岸がたくさんあって、回収活動が遅れているところもございます。これは長崎県の離島の海岸です。
Many of the people attending this symposium may just think about big cities such as Tokyo or Osaka or Mount Fuji when you think of Japan, but Japan has many beautiful beaches along the coast that extend 34,000 kilometers in total. However, there are many beaches full of debris as it is difficult to clean up due to poor access. And this shows a beach on a remote island in Nagasaki Prefecture.
海洋ごみの問題は問題点が多岐にわたる上に、対策には市民、行政、研究者、企業などすべてのセクターの協力や連携が欠かせません。寺院では震災漂流物の問題に関心が高まったこの機会を活用して、海洋ごみ問題全体の周知や教育活動にも力を入れていこうと考えています。この写真は寺院のオリジナル展示物である漂着物のトランクミュージアムというものを使って小学生に海のゴミ問題の授業を行っているところの様子です。
Marine debris problem is multifaceted in its issues, and as such, its solution requires the cooperation among all the relevant sectors, including citizens, governments, academics, and businesses. Jean would like to use this opportunity of the symposium, where people who are interested in the issue of tsunami driftage are gathered, and to raise the awareness and knowledge level of the marine debris problem as a whole. And this picture shows the exhibit made by Jean. It's called Suitcase Museum, and it's used to show the washed up materials to the elementary school students to teach about marine debris problems.
本日のシンポジウムは津波で海に流れ出た漂流物の問題について、これまでの2年半にわたる意見交換や交流のまとめとして開催するものです。災害に起因する漂流物だけではなく、従来からの大変深刻な海洋ごみ問題にどう対処していくべきかという大きな課題についても合わせて考えていきたいと考えておりますので、関心を持っていただければ幸いです。どうもありがとうございました。
Today's symposium is the culmination of the exchanges and visits that were conducted over the past 2.5 years to deal with the issues of tsunami driftage. I hope that this will give you an opportunity to take interest in not only the tsunami driftage issue, but also how to deal with the serious marine debris problems that have existed for a long time. Thank you very much.
Next, I'm Jun Saegusa from Ministry of the Environment, Japan. Today, I show you the recent activities of Government of Japan about tsunami debris, which caused by Great East Japan earthquake. And at first, I want to say thank you for everyone to give me this opportunity. And I love fish, so it's very lucky for me to the meeting has held in the Vancouver Aquarium. Well, okay. The earthquake occurred in northeast region Japan in 2011, caused tsunami, and the tsunami disrupted many towns. And the disaster waste left on the land has been also a big problem here. Yeah, these are all waste of the waste caused by tsunami. And some part of disaster waste flew to the ocean and become debris. And I had experience to go offshore by boat and vessels. Aftermath the earthquake towards disrupted area from Tokyo. Yeah, usually there's almost no big debris offshore, but at that time, me and other crew members saw enormous numbers of debris on the surface of the ocean, such as lumbers, houses which only roof popped out of the surface, and fishery boats. That was terrible. And as you know, those tsunami debris have reached to the North America continent. And sometimes even a big dock, like this one, and living fish. Living fish have been reached. And debris have caused problems about how we can retrieve and dispose them, or how the debris influenced to the local ecosystem. The Ministry of Environment Japan has been implemented tsunami debris simulation from 2011. And we calculate how they flow in the Pacific Ocean, like this. And with wind and current data. And according to the recent report, the amount of debris have been increasing from this April to this fall. These pictures are, the left one is February and June and October. But please be careful about possibility that there may be the gap between the calculated result and the actual condition of debris, because the simulation has been done in the past with the past data of the wind and current. So we could not use the future data. By the way, this is a truth that Japan has no responsibility to tsunami debris under the national law, but for west coast of North America continent and Hawaii, government of Japan has worked cooperatively under Japanese contribution. And the Ministry of the Environment has just started 3-year survey project from this year. on current status and possible influence on tsunami debris, especially on marine environment. About precise contents of this project, please watch the handout we give today. The results will be helpful for the local activities. Thank you very much.
皆さんこんにちは。私はですね、日本で、魚の小売店をしています桜井と申します。
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sakurai, and I'm a fish retailer in Japan.
水族館で、やっていただいてありがたいんですけど、少し申し訳ないなと思っています。
Well, I'm really happy that this symposium is held at the Aquarium, but I also feel sorry.
この良き日に皆さんにこのように挨拶できることは非常に私にとって幸せなことです。
And I'm very happy to be able to greet to you and make presentation on this very good day.
宮城県名取市閖上にある港町で私たちは朝市というものをやっています。
We hold a morning market in a town called Uriage in Natori City in Miyagi Prefecture.
そこにカナダの皆さんのおかげで東北とカナダの友好館メイプル館を建てていただきました。
And thanks to the support of the people from Canada, now we have Canada Friendship Pavilion called Maple Pavilion built in that city.
そのメイプル館にいっぱいのお客さんと我々組合員を代表してカナダの皆さんに御礼を申し上げます。
And on behalf of the members of my cooperative association and also on behalf of the visitors who visit the Canadian Friendship Pavilion, I'd like to take this opportunity to express appreciation to all of you in Canada.
2011年3月11日の昼過ぎに皆さんご存知の 3.11 の地震が宮城県の東海岸の閖上地区を襲いました。
On the early afternoon of March 11, 2011, the district ward of Uriage, located at the tip of Miyagi's east coast, experienced what we call the Japan Quake 3.11.
私たちは皆この被災を経験し、私たちの地区の歴史の中では最も悲劇的な災害でした。
It was the most tragic disaster in our district's history.
この震災で1万5000人の命が奪われましたが、我々閖上では5000人の人口のうち750人の人命が失われました。
Of the 15,884 lives lost, 750 were residents of our humble town, and our town has only 5,000 people.
閖上地区とは、仙台市の南にある港町です。
And Uriage is in the south of Sendai. It's a port town.
我々閖上港朝市は1974年に設立され、51の組合員で運営してきました。
And this morning market at Yuriage was established in 1974, and 51 members of the cooperatives have been operating this morning market.
そのうち4名の店主が亡くなり、家族12名の家族の命もなくなりました。
But out of 51 cooperative members, 4 of them lost lives in tsunami, and also 12 members were killed.
私たちのすべてのうち、財産、工場、いろんなものが一瞬のうち津波によって流されました。
And all our houses, our factories, our property, everything was lost in an instance by tsunami.
2012年の10月、その時、カナダ政府から名取市に支援の申し出が届き、私たちの未来が開けました。
But in October 2012, the government of Canada made an offer to provide support to the city of Natori, and this opened up a future for us.
閖上港朝市、閖上港朝市にカナダの高級な木材で建物ができ、お店もでき、我々やっと商売ができるようになりました。
And with the support of very high quality lumber from Canada and also the financial support, we were able to build buildings and reopen stores, and we were able to start our businesses again.
2013年5月に、東北カナダ友好館メイプル館をオープンし、そこには毎月12,500人以上の訪問者があります。
And in May 2013, we opened the Tohoku Canada Friendship Pavilion, and every year we receive over 12,500 visitors.
おかげさまで毎月訪れるお客様は増え続けています。
And the number of the visitors per month is continuing to increase.
閖上は次第に 3.11 の悲劇から新たなに構築されたメイプル館を中心に日本中からいろんなお客さんがこの震災の現実を見に来ていただいております。
This district of Yuriage experienced a 3.11 tragedy, but now the Friendship Pavilion is built, and with this as the attraction, the main attraction, people all over Japan visit this pavilion, and they can see the reality of the disaster.
カナダの支援とカナダの友情は最も意気消沈していた私たちの魂を励ましてくれました。
And this friendship and the support from Canada really encouraged the people who were really discouraged due to this disaster, and we were reborn.
再び立ち上がり前に進もうという勇気を与えてくれました。
And it gave us courage to stand up again and to look forward to the future.
私たちはこの町をもう一度立て直し前に進んでいくつもりです。
And we are determined to rebuild our town and determined to keep going.
閖上港朝市組合の代表として私たちが心から感謝していることをカナダの皆さんに伝えに参りました。
And I came here to tell the people in Canada, on behalf of the Yuriage Wharf Morning Market Cooperative Association, that we are truly appreciative of what Canada has done for us.
あの日以来、私たちはたくさんのものを失いました。
And on that tragic day, we lost a lot of things.
でも、その後、友情、励まし、勇気、たくさんのものを、それ以上のものをいただきました。
But after that, we received a lot of things, including friendship, encouragement, and courage, which exceeds more than the things we lost.
閖上とカナダ、何の縁もなかった2つの地域の関係が、これから将来にわたって大きな友情に包まれて進んでいきたいと思っております。
Before the tragedy, there was no relationship between Canada and the town of Uriage, but thanks to this, now we have friendly relationship, and we will continue to have friendly relationship with Canada in the future.
この映像は私たちが震災のあと2週間後、内陸部のショッピングモールで初めて開催した朝市の映像です。
This picture shows a morning market which opened only 2 weeks after the earthquake, but not at the port, but in a shopping mall inland.
私たちは地元の閖上に二度と帰れると思いませんでした。
And at that time, we never thought that we would be able to go back to our hometown, Uriage.
なぜなら本当に全てを失ったからです。
Because there we had lost everything.
でも震災の影響で食料品不足が起こり、なんとか皆さんのお役に立ちたいと思って1回だけの朝市を開きました。
But because of the earthquake and tsunami, there was shortage of food, and we really wanted to help people, so we decided to open this morning market just for once.
その後、避難所を回りながら食料支援を私たちのお金で始めました。
And also, we used our own pocket money to provide support and food to the temporary shelters.
なぜなら、もう二度と復興できないと思ったから、私たちのお金をその支援のためにつぎ込みました。
Because we thought that we would never be able to rebuild our town, we thought that we could use just the money we have to help the people who needed help.
このような私たちの純粋な気持ちが、カナダの皆さんの支援をいただく機会をいただいたと思っています。
But I believe that this pure act of kindness which we did, we provided, actually attracted the support and the financial aid from Canada.
これが去年12月1日にグランドオープンした映像です。
This shows the grand opening of our morning market, which opened on the 1st of December last year.
この日は1日で2万人のお客様が来ていただきました。
On this day, 20,000 people visit the morning market.
この閖上港朝市は被災地で唯一の建築許可をもらった建物です。
And actually, Uriage town has a building which is a permanent building with the permanent building permit. And this Uriage is the only one which has permanent building in the disaster-affected areas.
被災地で一番最初に立ち上がった市場です。
And this is the market which became open first in the disaster-stricken areas.
被災地で一番海に近い商業施設です。
And also, this is a commercial facility which is closest to the ocean in the disaster area.
海のそばで怖いのでお客様が来ることはないだろうという予想を覆し、 今、震災前の 1.5 倍のお客様が来ていただいています。
People thought that nobody will visit this mooring market because it's so close to the ocean and people are afraid of the ocean. But actually, unlike the prediction, we now have more people than before, and actually we have 1.5 times visitors than before.
これからも一生懸命頑張ります。それで、カナダの皆様、本当にありがとうございました。
So we'll continue to work hard, and again, I'd like to say thank you to the people in Canada.
はい、海を作る会と申します。
Our group is called the Sea Beautification Society.
スキューバダイビングを楽しみながら、主に海底固定、海浜清掃を年間30回以上している団体です。
While enjoying scuba diving, we clean up seabeds, lake beds, and beaches over 30 times a year.
東北震災は支援物資の配送から海底の掃除を実施して、今では毎月今訪問しております。
Following the Great East Japan earthquake, we distributed the aid materials and cleaned the seabeds in the disaster-stricken areas. We still visit the area once a month.
支援先ですが、この細かいこと言うと分かんないと思うんですが、岩手県の釜石市、それから宮城県の気仙沼市、それから宮城県の石巻市です。
And this shows the areas we still provide support to. So they are Kamaishi City in Iwate Prefecture, Keisennuma City in Miyagi Prefecture, and Ishinomaki City in Miyagi Prefecture.
支援活動としてはですね、
So this shows the support activities we conduct.
2011年の震災後から4月、5月、6月、震災は3月なんですが、4月、5月、6月と支援物資を配送しました。
Following the disaster which happened in March, in April, May, and June, we delivered aid materials.
これが釜石のメンバーなんですが、彼らとは14年来の付き合いがあってですね、震災後さらに深いつながりができ、今まではですね、友達という関係だったのが、今はふるさとにいる家族という付き合い方をしています。
Upper right shows the friends at the Kamaishi city, the members of our group, and we had friendly relationship with the people in Kamaishi before the earthquake, and our friendship further deepened following the disaster. They were more than friends now. They are like families I left back in my hometown.
これですが、仮設住宅というところで住まわれている方々に少しでもですね、その仮設の住宅が華やかになるように、花のプレゼント、これ一年中花が咲くようなものなんですが、そういうプレゼントをしています。
And for the people living in the temporary housings, which are shown at the bottom, we deliver flowers, and these are the flowers which bloom all year round.
で、旅館の再建とかですね、そういうのが今できてきてはいるんですが、旅館の再建、それから仮設住宅へのですね、これは納米と言いますが、これ納米ですね。というものを行っています。
And some of the Japanese inns have been rebuilt, and at these inns and also at the temporary shelter area, we showed this Japanese traditional play called no play.
スキューバダイバーの集まりである海を作る会の会員に彼ですが 室町時代、1300年からの室町時代から続くですね、笛師というのがおりまして、その彼らの能舞チームというのがこの震災後出来上がりました。それと一緒に我々も現地に赴きですね、一緒に能舞の手伝いなんかをしています。
One of the members of our scuba diving group is a traditional Japanese flute player who is the 13th generation of family that has inherited the art of flute playing since 1305. And with him, we created a no-play team, and we visit these disaster-stricken areas to show no play.
それからですね、その仮設住宅もあります。皆さんも仮設住宅に住まわれているんですが、幼稚園と子どもたちもこういう仮設のですね仮設住宅で幼稚園を開いています。そこに我々の絵本だとかおもちゃなどを届けています。
So the people are still living in temporary shelters or temporary housings, and also there are temporary kindergartens and preschools in these temporary buildings. And we deliver picture books and toys to these kindergartens and preschools.
ちなみにこの車なんですが、私の娘が20年前に使ってたおもちゃです。
And this toy car is actually the one which my daughter was using about 20 years ago.
私たちが最も得意としている海底清掃、これを今続けておりまして、大体2日間で4回のダイビングを行って1回につき大体10トンぐらいの今海底のものを引き上げています。
And here we are cleaning the seabed, and that's what we are good at. In this cleanup over the 2-day period, we dove 4 times and collected about 10 tons of materials.
この写真は今年のものですね。このぐらいの大きな水槽の蓋だとか、これも水槽ですね。これは中が空洞になってましたので、中に潜って穴を開けて自分の力でリフトアップしながら持ち上げてきたものです。
And the lower left, it shows a tank and actually the lid of the tank which he lifted, and also in the center, the green one, it's another tank lid, and actually it was hollow inside. So we went into the inside, and then we had to drill a hole and then lift it by hand.
でここに見えてるのがこのドラム缶なんですが、これも水中リフトハンドというか自分で重量上げのように持ち上げてきましたので、私は2ヶ月間肩がずっと痛かったんですね。
And this is drum can, and again I had to lift by hand in the water. It's like lifting barbell. So after that, for 2 months, my shoulder ached.
今でも痛いです。
And actually, it still hurts.
で、これは海藻のアマモというものなんですが、
And this is seaweed called eel grass.
先ほど言った宮城の石巻雄勝という場所でこのアマモ、この草のですね、復活10年プロジェクトを今始めています。
We have a 10-year project to rebuild this eel grass field at Ogatsu in Ushnimaki City in Miyagi Prefecture.
津波でですね、津波の前ではかなりのこのアマモがあったんですが、今はその津波でほとんど 85% が今なくなっていると言われています。
There was a big field of eel grass before tsunami, but it said that now 85% of them is gone.
で、残っているアマモ場からですね、少し抜いてきまして、こういう作業、アマモにですね、竹串なんです。竹を作って、そこにアマモの根っこをつけて、一本一本こうやって植える作業をしています。
But we harvest still remaining eel grass, and then we use bamboo stick to support, and then replant it one by one by hand. Then wait until it takes root, and then this will grow.
でこの写真はちょうど2013年去年の春に植えたものですけども、これは今年の8月に撮影したもので完全にこう根付いています。
The left picture shows the one which we planted in spring in 2013, and on the right you can see it's already taking roots and growing nicely in August.
でここに見えてるのがアナハゼという魚なんですが、アナハゼって大丈夫ですか、分かんないですか？ハゼの一種ですね。魚なんですが、すみません、ごめんなさい。
This is showing a fish, which is a goby.
この魚が来るということはこのアマモ場ができてプランクトンが寄ってきて、なおかつこのハゼが寄ってくる。でこのハゼによってまた中型の魚、大型の魚が寄ってくるという生態系が出来上がっている証拠なんですね。
Anyway, the fact that this fish called goby is here means that the eel grass has taken roots and growing nicely, and it also means that plankton came back because of eel grass. And with this fish, then there will be bigger fish, medium-sized fish, and larger fish. And in this way, the ecology of this area is being rebuilt.
でこのアマモはですね、水温が10度から15度ぐらいが一番元気なんですね。日本のアマモの種類はですね。
And this Japanese species of eel grass grows best at the water temperature between 10 and 15.
ですのでかなり冷たい中で私はだいたい2時間ぐらいこの水中に潜って一本一本今植えています。
So it's pretty cold, but at one time I usually dive for about 2 hours to plant these eel grass one by one.
このような活動を通して今まで東北の震災後のですね仮設住宅に入られている数11万8000戸あり、入居者数が28万残っていると言われています。
So those are the activities we have been conducting to support the people in Tohoku area and also the people who live in the temporary houses. Right now it's said that the number of temporary houses is 118,000 and 280,000 people are still living in these temporary houses.
私たちは通常の復興だけではなくて幸せ復興を願いつつ活動を続けてまいりたいと思っております。ありがとうございました。
And we'd like to continue our activities and to help contribute to the reconstruction, or I should say the rehappiness of the people in Tohoku area. Thank you.
All right. Everybody hear me? All clear? All right. Wonderful. Ta-da! Hello, my name is Hannah from Japan Love Project, and today I'm going to talk about the Ibiza cleanup that happened in March, and also about the 2 tsunami debris item that was returned home this summer in August. Japan Love Project was originally found on March 12, 2011, by university student volunteers and their friends. Our objective at that time was to provide support and aid toward Japan, the recovery of Japan, by doing whatever we can do from Vancouver. So, when we started hearing about the news about the tsunami debris reaching the shoreline of North America, we all knew that we had to do something in return to show our appreciation. So, we started off by organizing 2 cleanups in 2012, in March and May, hoping to make it like an annual cleanup, like a monthly thing. But we found out that the sites that needed the cleanup the most was not easy to access, and that we needed to figure out a better way to use our limited budget and time efficiently and wisely. Next. So that's when we thought about bringing Ibiza. Ibiza is a nonprofit university student organization based in Japan, and they usually put their focus in disaster relief. So I personally knew a few of the volunteer people through the disaster relief project I was involved in when I was in Japan. And also, funny enough, the founder of our project, Japan Lab Project, started working for IVUSA as their NPO staff in the summer of 2013. Yeah. So everything was in place to plan like a major, huge cleanup. But to tell you guys the truth, I think we were kind of crazy when we decided that bringing over 70 students from Japan was not going to be a big deal. Because it kind of was. Whoops. But thankfully, with the great help of people around Vancouver, also Ucluelet and Tofino, I see all the people who supported us. Thank you all guys so much. We were able to make it happen. So it was a 5-day project with 2 full days just dedicated to cleaning up the shoreline. We split the group in half to clean the broken islands group, such as the one on the top there, and also the shoreline and the beaches of Ucluelet and Tofino and the Pacific Rim National Park. Now, Broken Islands group was only accessible via boat, so the students, including myself, was pretty stoked about the opportunity of getting on a Zodiac. Amazing to be up on the ocean all the time, so we were very, very excited. But that excitement only lasted for like the first 10 minutes of the hour-long ride towards the island. Almost all of us got super seasick, and we were forced to take a break once we got on shore. Whoops. But once we started the cleanup, they were amazing, you know. With great teamwork and focus, the team started pulling out and picking up huge pieces of hard plastic, huge pieces of styrofoam, just like that one. There was like a whole bunch of them. Tires and shoes, plastic bags, buoys, fishing nets, and plastic oil tanks, and so on. Ta-da! So, with 2 full days of strong cleanup, we were able to collect over 6 tons of debris. 2 full days and 6 tons. That definitely made us realize and learn about the marine debris issue and how it affects the environment. Because to tell you guys the truth, we never really got involved in anything about marine debris up until we started this project. So it was a very great opportunity for myself and also for the team to learn about the marine debris. So, on the final day, we all got together at the debris sorting site to separate the collected items to recyclable, to reusable, to unfortunately landfill. Now this was really different because when I was doing disaster relief back in Japan, all the debris that we were being collecting from like the broken houses and everything, they unfortunately got to landfill and like combustible. So this was really an educational thing for us. And after separating the collected debris, we moved over to the beach for the memorial ceremony because the second day of the cleanup was held in March 11th, which is the day the disaster happened. Next. At the memorial ceremony, the mayor of Ucluelet presented us with the property marker of Yamamoto-cho that was found on their beach in March 2012. It's the one in the picture on the right side. That's the property marker. And he asked the IVUSA to bring back the item to the city of Yamamoto and also to give the message that the people of Canada will always remember the disaster and not to give up hope. Now, also during that cleanup, we came across a pallet that had a name written in Japanese character, the one on the right. Shoei Maru was what it said, and we immediately knew that it came from Japan. But that name didn't really tell us anything, you know? The pallet could have come from any region of Japan, and so we knew the chances of finding the owner of the pallet was pretty slim. But miracles do happen, and one of the students who went back to Japan was able to find and identify the owner who used to have this pallet before the disaster. And he told us that he wanted to return the pallet to the owner someday. So we all put that in our heart and promised ourselves that we'll bring it back to the owner someday. And then I realized that I had the opportunity to go back to Japan this August. And so I thought, why not bring the pallet with me, you know? Because I see people at the airport with like humongous baggages with them all the time. Why not a pallet? So with Japan Airlines and the Vancouver airport helping us, we were able to bring the pallet back home to Japan. So, Ibiza gave back the property marker to the city of Yamamoto in August 11th of this summer. City of Yamamoto promised us that they will display it at the city hall with the message from Canada and the message from the local people of Yukule. And moving on August 17th, we finally gave the pallet back to the fishermen. Mr. Chiba, the very young guy right there with a towel on his head, he lives in the region of Minami Sanriku, where he lost his house, his ship, and almost everything to tsunami. So up until the moment we meet him, we were like super nervous, and because we didn't know what he was gonna be like, and we didn't know what to expect. But he was a really nice, easygoing, super chill guy, and he was like, "Oh, this is so awesome! This just came back from Canada," and he was just like that, and we were like just standing in awe. It's like, yeah, you know. And then he brought us to the harbor where he lost everything, and showed us where his house and his life used to be. And even though Mr. Chiba was really outgoing and joyful and happy, listening to Mr. Chiba talk about the day of tsunami and watching the small waves calmly push against the ships, we finally realized once again how big the scale of the disaster was. This is the harbor where Mr. Chiba works at. So it has definitely been an emotional roller coaster ride for everybody since March 11, 2011. You know, through the disaster, we learned about love and generosity and kindness from everywhere around the world. And for us, holding the cleanup project was our way of saying thank you. But through holding these projects, we learned and realized that none of these projects was possible without the help of people like yourself, especially the people sitting here in the auditorium, my family, first of all, and my friends, and also the people of Yukule, Tofino, and Vancouver. Thank you all guys so much for making the impossible possible. And then lastly, finally, on behalf of Japan and of course from myself, I just want to say thank you all so much for providing us support through the disaster when we needed the help the most. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much for everyone who's spoken so far. I think we've had some really, really phenomenal lessons that we've learned already so far, and it's just really great to see some of the volunteer efforts that have happened recently and will continue to happen. It's just really something that's, anytime I see it, I'm always instantly inspired. So thank you everyone for sharing some real local stories as well as what we've been doing across borders and across the world, essentially. So thank you. We're gonna do a little bit of a Q&A, so if you have any questions to share, if you just wanna raise your hand, we'll start in this section and then we'll do our best to locate the appropriate speaker to answer those for you. So just raise your hand and we'll come to you. No? Okay. Oh, we do have a question down here in the front. Thank you.
Yeah, my question was just if there's been much thought process towards interviewing and getting out to some of those smaller isolated communities up and down the coast, just like some of these small fishing villages. There's a lot of debris that actually gets salvaged by these communities on an ongoing basis, and they actually get reused, and wharfs get built out of them. Locals in some of these remote places, boat access only, and there's a lot of debris that's getting taken off the beaches and you know, being disposed of, burnt, reused, things being built out of them. that I feel like may be of interest to the people doing this work, different organizations, in trying to get more of that data before it kind of gets cleaned off the beaches, and then people don't realize how much is actually getting washed up in some of those areas. And I just know it's, being from a small coastal village, it's hard to get that communication going back and forth between the NGOs and the cities and those small communities.
Great. Just to clarify, you're speaking within Canada and United States, or? Within British Columbia. So if my understanding is it's the question of if we're connecting and how we can connect more with actual local individuals and communities that are seeing this firsthand that we might not already have connections with directly. Is that my understanding? Great. Yeah, I don't have the specific answer to that. I'm not sure if any of our earlier speakers would be the best to speak on that, but it's just something that what tonight has shown is that we're working in collaboration throughout this, and it's one of these, it's a learning process and it's a growing process, and I think it's something that's great to connect with those individuals. So it's definitely will be built into the future as how we can, we're in this situation together, and it's really been inspiring to see from Japan of how that sincerity has extended towards us to working together. So already that level is there. Thanks. Do we have any other questions? We have way back in the top corner. No one's in line.
Hello, Donald Burton. I'm interested in the palette that was returned to Japan. The characters on the side of it, to me, mean the name of a boat. And I wonder what, did I hear that this was a marker from the city, or whether it was from a boat and used on a boat? Do you know?
No problem. Trade spots, yeah. Absolutely.
Just to clarify.
Yep. If you could repeat his question too.
Okay, just to clarify. So the palette and the property marker was two different items. So the property marker was from the city of Ucluelet, and the palette was from an individual fisherman. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it was from a boat.
Yes, it was from a boat. Shoemaru stands for the name of the boat, and fishermen in Japan usually name their fishing equipment with their name of the boat. So this name would be on their forklift, their pallet, their smaller ships, and their zodiacs, and almost everything that you can name it. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have another question down here. We'll take a moment to get to you. Just over there.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm just wondering if anyone is able to give an approximate percent of the items found on any beach that they could actually genuinely identify as coming from the tsunami, or was it kind of a mixture of things? Like this one obviously had some printing on it, but I'm assuming a lot did not. How easy was it for them to figure out what was just collection of material or debris from the ocean as opposed to the actual tsunami? Was that easy to distinguish?
Great. Yeah, that's an excellent question. Essentially, the question was, with the items that we are finding washing up, what percentage can we determine is from Japan? We'll have some really great speakers coming up in the latter half from Canada and the United States that might be able to speak to that. I don't myself have an exact percentage. I know from personal experience going out there, it is a mix. There is certainly items that are there that are locally generated as well. So it is an ongoing situation to remove these items. There's a lot of you'll see in some images coming up, a lot of single-use plastic water bottles. There's a lot of styrofoam floats. So there's certain things you can identify as coming from Japan, but I'm not sure if we have an exact percentage. We might learn a little bit more about that in the latter half of the talk. Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a bit of a break out where we entered for some refreshments and snack. We'll be beginning the latter half at 7:45, so we'll get everyone in here before then. Thank you so much.
We're going to get going. If everyone settles in and feels comfortable, thank you. Konbawa. And good evening, everyone. Thanks very much to my friends and colleagues in Jean for having us all here tonight, and of course our host, the Vancouver Aquarium. Love coming here, and special thanks to Noriko, who did all the logistics and organizing, so thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here, and thank you for coming out. My name is Pete Clarkson. I live in Tofino. I work at Pacific Rim National Park. My passion is to make art from marine debris, and I've been doing that for about 15 years. The tsunami, of course, has generated a lot of interest in marine debris, and I've had a lot of creative inspiration from the material and have been using some of it to make art from. Not to be trite or superficial, but one of the things I think many of us that work in the business of cleaning marine debris and generating awareness, at our hearts, a lot of us are beachcombers, and beachcombing for me is, it teaches me many things. It's one of the things I love about it. It gives us insights into the mysteries of the ocean, its creatures, its patterns. It teaches us patience and perseverance. And of course, it also teaches us about connections, connections with places, connections with objects, and occasionally even connections with other people. In that regard, the Tohoku tsunami was unprecedented in its opportunity for North Americans to make connections with people in Japan. After watching those horrific images of the disaster, there was so much compassion and empathy to share with the victims that many of those emotions became the motivations, I think, that compelled us as beachcombers to get out there and look for potentially find personal objects and possibly even return them across the ocean. People rallied to that cause up and down the coast from Hawaii and Alaska and all the way to California. Many items have actually been found, and some have even been returned. And each time the event fueled a greater and greater media and public interest, as so many of us in this room have probably experienced. It's also raised a collective awareness about marine debris pollution. And for those of us that have been struggling with that issue for many years now, it's provided an incredible opportunity to generate a greater public awareness and try to address the issue at an international scale. You only need to look around the room here to appreciate that's what brought us all here together today. And a few years ago, that would have been very difficult. Making connections with people through items lost in the tsunami. Sorry, I actually do have some slides. That's me with some of this driftage. Making connections with people through items lost in the tsunami continues to capture our imagination. It's fueled many projects, including a Canadian documentary called Lost and Found, that provided me with a life-changing opportunity to visit the northeast coast of Japan last November. While traveling through the Tohoku region, I was amazed at how much progress had been made. I had to constantly remind myself that it had only been 2.5 years since the disaster. People were getting their lives back, kids were back in school, businesses were reopening, and communities were being rebuilt. With everyone trying to move forward, I was quite worried how our efforts to return items and the memories that those things might bring back would be received. You know, as one person told me that I met there, he said, we've shed our tears and we're just trying to get our lives back together now. and get on with our lives. I must also tell you that one of the first things that people would tell me or say to me when they found out I was from North America was that they would apologize for the debris that was arriving on our coast. Imagine apologizing after they had lost so much. I felt so bad. I want to share two experiences with you that occurred during my visit there. We had brought with us a soccer ball that had been found on the Washington coast as part of the Ukatsu project, which was a project to clean the coast. The soccer ball belonged to the Otsuchi Soccer Club, a junior high school team from Otsuchi, Japan. Otsuchi had been heavily impacted by the tsunami. 105 people's lives were lost. And like so many other towns, most of its schools were destroyed. We had arranged to meet with the soccer coaches and arrived in the evening while a soccer practice was underway. It was a beautiful scene. The kids were out playing under the lights, having fun. It reminded me a lot of home, and we could have been anywhere in North America. The coaches knew we were coming, but I don't think they really knew what it was really going to be all about. We were pretty nervous ourselves because we weren't sure how they were going to receive us. We stood under the lights making small talk with the coaches, feeling each other out, sharing some laughs. The coaches were mostly all younger men, united in their mission to provide the kids with some kind of sense of normalcy. They were trying to help them forget and get on with their lives and look forward to the future. After a few minutes, we brought out the soccer ball, and as soon as they saw it, the coaches became very emotional. One by one, they passed the ball around, handling it like it was a newborn baby. As they held the ball to each person held the ball, they said, "Daisuke, Daisuke." They told us this story. Daisuke was one of the coaches and the equipment manager for the team. He was clearly really well liked. When the tsunami hit, he was in his van traveling to the school for a practice, and he had all the equipment in his van. He was caught in his van and swept away and lost his life. And now here we were from 7,000 kilometers away, 2.5 years later, with a ball that Daisuke had been carrying with him the day he was lost. And yet, even as the tears were being shed there was also smiles, for suddenly here was a memory of their great friend. And I know it's a moment I won't ever forget, and suspect the same from those coaches. They called all the kids over to meet us, and of course, they were very excited to meet strangers from North America. And when the coaches showed them the ball and told them that it had been with Daisuke they also got very emotional. And one by one, they came over to us and gave us a bow and shook our hand. And of course, they had to practice their English on us, so every one of them came up to us and said, "Thank you very much, thank you very much." When I left that place, it was like the Grinch, and my heart was 2 sizes bigger. It was a really wonderful feeling. When we traveled next, we went to Ushnimaki, and another city lost many of its schools in the tsunami, including a school called the Wadanahoa Elementary School. Soon after the tsunami, a young artist named Thomas Inuki had come to Ushnimaki as a volunteer. Tomo-san wanted to bring something positive out of all the wreckage by harnessing the creative energy of all the kids from the school. His mission was simple: to bring people hope and to bring smiles. Together they transformed the tsunami remnants into wonderful sculptures and symbols of recovery. I had the great pleasure of meeting Tomo-san and the children who had created the sculptures, And we did indeed share many smiles together, and I often try to honor their mission in my own art. I found many inspirations in my visit to Japan. One in particular is that disasters can have a dual nature. That for the tragedy and the lives lost during that terrible tsunami, there was also an incredible human spirit of people coming together, and much still to be thankful for. Tomo-san and the soccer coaches have clearly made a positive difference to those kids, and in the process have enriched their own lives. And I know we've heard many stories already this evening about people whose lives have been actually enriched from this terrible disaster. I think it's a fitting tribute to the gracious people of Japan that one of the positive legacies of 3/11 will be healthier oceans, cleaner shorelines, and greater cooperation to address marine debris. I respectfully ask my friends from Jean to share that message of hope with the people of Japan. Domo arigato, and thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Sweff and I'm the Tsunami Debris Cleanup Coordinator with the Great Canadian Shoreline Cleanup here at the Vancouver Aquarium. In March of this year, the Great Canadian Shoreline Cleanup received funding from the province of BC and the government of Japan for volunteer-based cleanups along the west coast of Vancouver Island. So this coastline has very few towns, not many people are living along the coast here, and there's many remote and exposed beaches. On every cleanup that we've been on so far, we've found items that are related to the Japanese tsunami. We're really grateful for the funding that we received because it's allowed us to expand our program beyond what we could normally do and to engage, educate and act like never before. So for example, in July, we helped a group of 20 volunteers from Surfrider Vancouver Island to remove 1.5 tonnes of debris from Raft Cove. Surfrider extended the reach of their cleanup by bringing along a professional videographer to create a film of their cleanup. And the premiere of that film actually sold out in Victoria last week. Then in August, we helped 20 volunteers from Living Ocean Society to take part in an intense 2-week cleanup at Sea Otter Cove. They removed over 2.5 tonnes of debris from a very difficult and remote coastline. Their cleanup included the construction of a huge raft to tow debris out to a landing barge. And just last weekend, our team here at the Aquarium coordinated a cleanup in collaboration with Parks Canada on the West Coast Trail. With a group of 18 volunteers, some of whom I'm really happy to see here tonight, we removed 3.5 tonnes of debris from this beautiful trail, including 1,300 plastic drink bottles and 800 fishing floats. We're creating a safer environment for wildlife and for hikers. The trail has never been cleaned before and there's plenty more work to do, so hopefully we can continue to work with parks in this area. Among the standard styrofoam and plastic drink bottles, we found several items of Japanese origin. This partially melted plastic pallet, may have been part of a burning island of rubble after the tsunami. We also found Japanese timber and household items. When we encountered these items, we spoke with our volunteers about the tragic earthquake and tsunami in Japan and took a moment to remember and to recognise the massive loss of life that this event had. These conversations help us all to recognise the impact of natural disasters and the connectedness of our world. These cleanups, conversations and experiences were all possible because of our funding. Our funding has allowed us to connect with more communities, local businesses and individuals than ever before. Every time we work with a new group, we have the opportunity to engage and educate people about marine debris. We are also able to educate people about how the ocean has transported items from Japan to our coastline after the tsunami. We've received overwhelmingly positive responses from everyone we've encountered. Helicopter pilots, local business owners, boat operators, hikers, recycling yards and trucking companies have all been involved, which amplifies the reach of our program. Our online audience here at the Aquarium has also responded really positively to our blog posts and all of our social media updates. For those of you who have taken a group of participants on a cleanup, you'll recognise that moment when the reality of ocean pollution hits the participant. Maybe it happens when they're filling their third bag in 5 minutes, or when they pick up another piece of styrofoam and it breaks into tiny pieces in their hands. Suddenly they're asking questions. Why do we need all these plastic drink bottles? Why can't we find alternatives to styrofoam? It's this exact moment of realisation that inspires our program. Once a participant sees these things firsthand, they can't forget it. Hopefully they don't look at single-use plastics the same way again. We encourage cleanup participants to share their cleanup experience with their friends and family. When I look at a map of the shorelines of Vancouver Island and think about future projects, I see countless possibilities for engaging, educating and acting. Our challenges on this coast are probably similar to what a lot of people are experiencing in this room, with difficult, sometimes impossible access, weather, insurance, safety, communications and so on. And conducting cleanups safely takes really careful planning and coordination and communication. But I noticed personally that the buzz from our West Coast Trail cleanup has not worn off. I can't wait to get back out there again and contribute to cleaner oceans and cleaner shorelines and to share this story with as many people as possible. Our program here at the Aquarium is giving us the means to undertake projects that have only been dreams for many who care about the ocean and our shorelines. We're also working on ways to incorporate marine debris and Japanese artefacts into our exhibits at the Aquarium so that we can tell this story to our more than 1 million visitors annually. This list of groups and individuals we've worked with or received donations from illustrates the multidisciplinary nature of our cleanups. I'd also like to say a special thank you to Carla and to Pete for all your encouragement and support and advice. Thank you to all our partners, collaborators and friends. We're really excited and motivated for our next cleanup.
Konbanwa and hello. My name is Carla Robison, and I work for the District of Ucluelet as their Environmental and Emergency Service Manager. Thank you for the opportunity to provide a brief overview today of Ucluelet's Marine Debris Program and to share with you a few highlights that have occurred over the last 2.5 years. I started my role with the District of Ucluelet in February 2012. During my very first week of work, I had the great opportunity, along with the 2 mayors and the 2 CAOs from Tofino and Ucluelet, to meet with Consul General Mr. Hideki Aito. At this meeting, the Consul General asked the 2 communities to take the Japan Tsunami Marine Debris, also known as JTMD, matter seriously and to assist with the return of any sensitive driftage items. Since that meeting over the last 2.5 years, I've had the great privilege to develop a local marine debris program in response to JTMD, which has a wide range of aspects, including response and recovery planning, scientific monitoring, aquatic invasive species, and architecture, driftage research, cleanup projects with a variety of collaborative partners, communication, outreach, and public education, as well as participation with the Provincial and Federal Tsunami Debris Coordinating Committee. I'm going to briefly touch on 3 significant contributions from Ucluelet's Marine Debris Program, and I also look forward to sharing additional information with you after the symposium. So in an attempt to distinguish between JTMD and typical widespread marine debris, I established an accumulation monitoring site through the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration Shoreline Survey Program. Since June 2012, I, a few dedicated volunteers, as well as Euclid's high school sustainability class, have conducted monthly surveys at a 1,000-meter area within Euclid's municipal boundary. This site is unique as its monitoring takes place monthly. It's the largest monitoring site in British Columbia, and to some extent has been representative of what modelers from the University of Hawaii and NOAA predicted high windage and moderate windage material to arrive to our coastline. In March 2013, a variety of architecture driftage material arrived on shorelines around Ucluelet. Dedicated volunteer Stephen Holland and I initiated research to confirm the posts, beams, rafters, sill plates, and so on were in fact components of Japanese homes and buildings. Around the same time, the drifted items arriving to the coast contained probable Japanese marine species. The district shared the architecture and biofouling information with lead North American aquatic invasive species scientist, Dr. James Carleton. Dr. Carleton acclaimed that Ucluelet discovered the very first pieces of recognized Japanese marine debris material with probable Japanese species to be recognized in British Columbia, and the very first JTMD wood to land in North America with living Japanese biofouling. Dr. Carleton entered these discoveries into his National Science Foundation Rapid Research Response Program. We continue to send samples for analysis to Dr. Carleton, Oregon State University, and the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. We have also stored, inventoried, and safeguarded approximately 80 pieces of architecture driftage material, which we aim to use in a memorial monument. Euclid has conducted a variety of cleanup projects that have been affiliated with local organizations, visitors, school groups, and the Vancouver Aquarium. Specialized cleanup teams were established and aerial operations have occurred to remove arduous and hard-to-access driftage materials. Euclid recently received $82,000 in February 2014 to conduct shoreline cleanup projects in Euclid and Barkley Sound. This one-year project was funded through the gracious donation provided by the Japan government. This program has 26 collaborative partners, and so far we've collected approximately 10 tons of debris. There have been a variety of cleanup projects affiliated with the Japan Consulate, Japan Love, the Japanese Environmental Action Network, and the International Volunteer University Student Association. In closing, I believe the Little West Coast of Euclid followed through with their original commitment to the Japan Consulate. This success is a direct result of the immense teamwork, dedication, and enthusiasm shown by local to international partners. Particularly cleanup projects and associated events with Japan Love and the International Volunteer Student Association were a huge success due to extraordinary team spirit and passion exhibited by students, which left British Columbians very moved and inspired. The gracious funding donation provided by the Japan government has and will continue to assist with very important JTMD work, as well as continue to support partnership building between Japan and coastal communities. Overall, JTMD has been a remarkable example of cooperation and has served as an opportunity to demonstrate how working as a team from a local to an international level can have a great impact on protecting our shared marine environment. Initiatives for JTMD have become a legacy as steps are being built towards capacity and resiliency for future events. The community of Euclid would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Japan Consulate, Jean, and the Japan government for their support, guidance, and assistance.
My name is Trent Mores. I'm from Hadaguai. Hadaguai is an archipelago of over 150 islands in northwest British Columbia. I'm a member of the Hadaguai Tsunami Working Group. The Hadaguai Tsunami Debris Working Group is a coalition of the Haida Nation, local municipalities, provincial and federal governments. Its purpose is to coordinate activities to address the tsunami debris arrival on Hadaguai, which originated with the 2011 Japanese Tohoku tsunami. There has been a great deal of apprehension about the possible volume and impacts of vast quantities of marine debris forecasted to come ashore along with Pacific coast of North America. Concerns include the potential for invasive species, radiation in the environment, and social harm caused by the inundated of the coastline, coastal communities with debris. To address these concerns, the Hadaguai Tsunami Debris Working Group has created a debris site inventory of locations that will be the focus of cleanup and long-term monitoring in both front and back country. We have been working on public education through the creation of a brochure to reach out to communities and working with volunteers in schools. We have several copies here for everyone here. We are working on storage and disposal options for collected debris, including the potential for reuse and recycling. We have begun the development of a protocol for Hadaguai that will coordinate and formalize beach cleanups, debris monitoring, and public education activities. During 2013 and 2014, there were 50 sections of shoreline that were surveyed, cleaned, removing over 500 cubic meters of trash. Multi-year surveys and subject observations since 2012 at key locations have found that the quantity of debris has not increased by a great deal. However, in some places there is still huge quantities of garbage. The makeup of that debris is likely a combination of tsunami debris, marine debris from shipping and fishing industries. There is comparatively little trash of local origin, there being numerous pieces of hazardous waste, generally unknown industrial liquids in failing containers. There have been several wrecks located, but none have been positively traced. There have been no instances of the radiation being detected. There have been no confirmed cases of invasive species. During 2013, the first year of the working group, we concentrated on removing debris from high density or high exposed sites. We use vessels like this one here from Highlander Marine Services, and you can see large amounts were taken out of these sites at collector beaches. We have encouraged volunteer with the debris removal. Most of these people here are from the local municipalities, the Haida Nation, and they were all on volunteer. We've adjusted protocols for site selection, data collection, and disposal, options to reflect the realities of each site and to find a balance in time spent on data collection and cleanup. Marine debris on Hadaguai is being monitored and removed from numerous sites by volunteers, contractors, and agencies. The debris monitoring uses protocols established by NOAA Marine Debris Shoreline Survey Field. The data collected through the surveys are being compiled and submitted to NOAA Marine Debris Monitoring and Assessment Project Field Survey Data Collection Site. This will allow future analysis of marine debris data for such purposes and create a baseline condition and trends. Where appropriate, the GCSC protocols are used for special cleanup events and school groups. There are two general types of debris surveys being conducted under the NOAA protocols: cumulative surveys, which provide information on the nature and rate of deposits. A lot of different fluxes happen at different times of year, and we're just recently seeing that trend increasing right now. For practical reasons, modified accumulation surveys are used by contractors at sites of a very high debris load. The total volume of debris is tracked, but with less detail. Standing stock surveys are used to gather regular baseline data on the nature and quantity of debris in specific sites. The debris is left in place, giving the information on a long-term basis load. These surveys are very accurate. To date, we have taken 30 standing stock surveys, 45 cumulative surveys. So within the last year, we've taken 75 surveys on Hadaguai. A lot of these cleanups are in really remote areas, but some of them are accessible by vehicles. This is a local contractor who goes out fairly regularly and takes quite large loads on his small pickup off the beach. To date, we have collected information from 75 sites. However, we have cleaned 30 sites on Graham Island, the north end of Hadaguai, and 12 sites from Guayhanas on the lower South Moresby side of Hadaguai. The distances of beaches that have been cleaned accumulate to over 26 kilometers of beaches. This year we collected 200 cubic meters of debris from Graham Island, Guayhanas area, 225, and in total that represents the 500 cubic meters. So in some of our challenges is where this debris is being stored. Generally it's disposed of by the contractors at local landfills. Large pieces of foam are found throughout, and there's quite a bit of challenges with cleaning these beaches. As you can see, some of the collector beaches have high volumes. So we're trying to recycle and reuse a lot of this material, which a lot of locals in this remote area are accustomed to. So it does seem to work itself out a lot of the time. We have a lot of partners and agencies which help us. Highlander Marine Services is a main contractor. This is the tsunami seismometer we found from Tokyo this year. It was one of our biggest finds. And there's several other large items which are posing big issues for us for disposal, but we're slowly working on solutions to those problems. And yeah, we'd like to thank all our partners and help in the public education, NOAA, the Great Canadian Shore Cleanup, Hadaguai Higher Education students, BC Parks Canada, and the Hadaguai Tsunami Debris Committee, all for keeping our beaches clean and safe. Thank you.
Well, that's way too high. Thank you all for having me here tonight. My name is Katie Gavanis. I usually work with 10 and 11-year-olds as an educator, so I want to also thank you for your quiet attention and your ability to sit still. I am here representing Loretta Brown, who is the Marine Debris Project Coordinator for the Center for Alaskan Coastal Studies, as well as the ICC Coordinator for Alaska. The Center for Alaskan Coastal Studies is a stewardship and environmental education nonprofit. We have conducted a volunteer citizen monitoring program called Coast Walk for 32 years to monitor and clean beaches in Kachemak Bay, and now we work with agencies and organizations across the state to coordinate marine debris cleanups. I'm going to do a broad overview of what's going on in the state, and then Chris Pallister from Gulf of Alaska Keeper will get into the nitty-gritty. Many dedicated groups and individuals are working to monitor and clean up marine debris from Alaska's shores. This has only increased in the aftermath of the tsunami as more and more people become aware of the issue of marine debris. As you can see, Alaska is a very large state with many remote areas, making finding and removal of marine debris quite a challenging prospect. It takes a lot of resources, so there are many agencies and organizations involved. Statewide cleanup efforts and funding in Alaska are provided through the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation, Alaska Marine Stewardship Foundation, and the Exxon Valdez Oil Spill Trustees Council. The Gulf of Alaska Keeper, Island Trails Network, Yakutat Salmon Board, Sitka Sound Science Center, Island Charters, and Center for Alaskan Coastal Studies conduct regional surveys and cleanups, and the National Park Service conducts cleanups on shores of national parks in Alaska. Long before the East Japan earthquake and tsunami, marine debris was a big issue in Alaska. Over 32 years of Coast Walk, every type of debris imaginable has been found. The most common items are from land-based activities and personal use, things like food wrappers, beverage bottles, cigarettes, appliances, and industrial and recreational marine uses like buoys, boat parts, nets, ropes, etc. We also find marine debris from container spills, such as large shipments of plastic products like Nerf balls and fly swatters, and the pre-production nurdles, the little tiny pieces of plastic that are used to make those products. And another thing that we encounter a lot in Kachemak Bay and throughout Alaska is debris from local small-scale disasters, the storms that hit during the winter and tear apart someone's dock, things of that nature. With the exception of container spills, much of this was fairly local in origin until recently. Local debris still dominates in sheltered areas like Kachemak Bay, but more exposed beaches are seeing increasing amounts of tsunami debris. In cleanups beyond Kachemak Bay on the more exposed coastlines of Alaska, there have been many reports and confirmation of debris connected to the tsunami. For example, recent cleanups on Kodiak Island by the Island Trails Network yielded 200,000 pounds of trash over the past 2 years. Although no items tied to the tsunami have been confirmed, there were high numbers of Japanese oyster floats and, according to a volunteer, relatively new household-style Japanese bottles. A cleanup of Kayak Island discovered between 300 to 500 large oyster floats, like the one pictured here, a box van, and street markers such as this one. There we go. Skiffs were also found on Kayak Island and in southeast Alaska, some of which are considered to be a likely result of the tsunami. Chris Pallister from the Gulf of Alaska Keeper will be speaking soon about the significant increase in foam debris and other lightweight debris they have recorded following the tsunami. Other likely debris have washed up in southeast and south central Alaska. However, now that marine debris from the tsunami has been confirmed in all 5 states and in British Columbia, NOAA has stopped working really to confirm reports of marine debris. They're still tracking the reports, but effort is now going into cleanup rather than identifying items positively as debris from the tsunami. Nonetheless, people in Alaska remain very interested in understanding if and how debris from the earthquake and tsunami might be affecting Alaskan shores. At the Center for Alaskan Coastal Studies, people frequently come into our office to inquire about buoys and bottles they find with what they believe are Japanese characters. During Coast Walk cleanups, volunteers ask often about identifying tsunami debris. For communities along the coast of Alaska, we recognize these debris items when they wash up on our shore. Buoys and skiffs especially tell a story of a way of life that we understand. They serve as a somber reminder of the importance of disaster preparedness in our own communities and a powerful testament that we really do live in one ocean and one world, connected by currents, culture, and economies. As an environmental educator, I have found that the topic of tsunami debris is a tragic but powerful teaching tool. The paths traveled by debris present an engaging way for students to learn about currents and oceanography. They also serve again as a reminder of the importance of disaster preparedness. The debris also requires us to consider its origin and the stark difference between a piece of debris that came from a natural disaster as compared to something like a plastic bottle or cigarette butt that originated through complacency or blatant disregard for the environment. It implicates us in that other debris and demands change. We anticipate more tsunami-connected debris making landfall in the future, especially some of the heavier items. No matter what, we hope to continue to work with you all and Jean, as well as so many dedicated organizations and individuals in Alaska to coordinate our efforts, share knowledge and resources, and make our oceans cleaner and our communities stronger. Thank you.
I'd like to express my sincere thanks and appreciation to Jean and the Vancouver Aquarium for organizing and sponsoring this symposium. It's very important to keep the issue of marine debris in front of the public and particularly our policymakers. So thank you very much for all your hard work. In 2014, Gulf Alaska Keeper was selected to be the only statewide qualified contractor to clean up tsunami debris along the coast of Alaska. We formed a joint venture project with Island Trail Network and Airborne Technologies, and we have projects all along the Gulf of Alaska. Most of those projects are through the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation, and that money for those projects is largely to this date coming from the gifted funds from the Japanese government to the American government for cleaning up tsunami debris. We also have two other major funders. The Exxon Valdez Oil Spill Trustee Council has put close to $1 million into tsunami debris cleanups in the last couple of years, and the Alaska legislature has put about $1.5 million into those projects. And in addition to that, Gulf Alaska Keeper does two major marine debris monitoring projects. It's been ongoing since 2006, so we have a lot of really good baseline data. Our projects go this entire sweep of the northern Gulf of Alaska. This is about 450 kilometers across here, and then also all the way down onto Gravina Island in southeast Alaska. My notes got all messed up here, so bear with me. We now, on these projects in the Northern Gulf, have almost 1,300 super sacks. They're the big sacks. They're about a cubic yard and a third or a yard and a half cash for pickup, and that just came from this summer. The previous summer, we had 500 sacks stored on the beaches, so right now there are 1,800 super sacks and about 40% more loose, large debris consolidated, which totals about 400,000 pounds of debris and 180 metric tons. So that's just from this summer, that part of it. And that came from about 40 miles of shoreline in this area. We didn't do all of it naturally. So our debris tonnages range from 2 to 15 metric tons per mile, and some beaches are even up to 30 tons of plastic debris per mile. In 2013, we did a directed tsunami debris cleanup. I keep pushing the wrong button here. In this area of Prince William Sound, these beaches had all been cleaned before 2013, so the Exxon Valdez Oil Spill Trustee Council had us go in there and clean up styrofoam and urethane foam and lightweight things such as bottles and aquaculture floats. We picked up 68 tons of material in this 300 miles over a 30-day period, all lightweight stuff. And then we came out here and we picked up 96 tons in 3 miles. These beaches have never been cleaned before, and they're directly in line with the tsunami debris impact. Prior to late 2013, most of the stuff we got was lightweight, but by the fall of 2013, we started to see heavier items come in, such as the structural lumber, building components, boat hulls, things like that. We also got a lot of these boundary markers that people have mentioned before that started showing up in 2013. They're low windage items, high density, they float really low in the water and they're current driven. We're seeing more and more of those. But along with the heavier stuff that's coming, we're still getting lightweight stuff. These volleyballs we just found in August on Montague Island, and they came from 2 schools damaged by the tsunami, and they were returned to those schools just in the last week or so. As you can see, we still have a major problem in Alaska. This photo was taken in August. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles of shoreline that look like this, and if you look at this, the large component of this is crushed styrofoam, urethane foam, different types of styrene board, and of course the aquaculture floats and things like that. The volume is just staggering, and there are literally thousands of miles that still need to be cleaned. And if you don't get at it right away, this is what you end up with. You wind up with a bunch of crushed debris that becomes exceedingly difficult to clean up, if not impossible. It's very time consuming and it's very expensive to clean this up. This set of graphs came from some of our monitoring sites. We have 17 sites we clean every year. And this is the percentage of styrofoam per total weight for each site. So you can see this is when the tsunami hit in March of 2011. But even by August of 2011, we were seeing a spike in foam debris, which we didn't recognize until we started running the data just this last year. But the styrofoam as a percentage of the total weight peaked in 2012 and 2013. This year it's dropped down back a little bit, but it's still not the background level. But when you go from 5% to 25 or greater percent in weight of your total debris, that is a huge volume of debris. 50% of what we pick up, the amount of debris we pick up on these outer coastlines is half of what we pick up is related to the tsunami in the form of mostly that lightweight material. It's a tremendous volume. We're now getting skiffs and larger items, as I mentioned, are very difficult to remove. Our shorelines are very rugged. We have no road access. We wind up taking debris off of the beaches with little skiffs like this to take it out to the bigger vessels that are parked offshore. It's very time consuming, and when the surf is up and it's wet, it's very dangerous. So we quit doing that now. Now we're just consolidating stuff in super sacks. We now have 1,800 of those on the shoreline, as I mentioned, and we're going to work through next July. We expect to have 4,000 of them on the beach by next July, and then we'll sling them off with helicopters onto a large ocean-going barge and probably ship them to landfill in the Pacific Northwest or a recycling center. That's just a sling load of debris being brought into a consolidation pile. That gives you an idea how big these super sacks are. There are hundreds of these piles on the shoreline out there now, and we've only just begun. I mean, we've just done a tiny fraction. Since the tsunami, we've cleaned 500 miles of shoreline, and there are literally thousands of miles to clean. Just give you an idea how massive these piles are. It's a staggering amount of debris on our shorelines, and contrary to what a lot of people think, this is mostly, our large component of it is tsunami debris. There's no question about it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Schmidt. I represent a program from Washington State called Washington Coast Savers. Beach cleanups have been occurring in Washington since 1971, and different groups have taken different sections of the coast. And for decades, these groups weren't working together. They were all doing these separate sections of the beach and not really even communicating or working together to address the issue. And then in 2007, the Washington Clean Coast Alliance was formed. And that alliance brought all these partners together, both nonprofits, state agencies, federal agencies, all together under this context of an alliance to work together to clean the entire coast of Washington during the Earth Day weekend in April. So that effort really started in April of 2008 when Washington Coast Savers program was formed. So Coast Savers, as I mentioned, is this combination of agencies and organizations, but it really is the hundreds of volunteers who come out to the beach every April and now every September for the ICC. It's really the volunteers that make Coast Savers happen. And we just recently created this mission statement to capture the work that we do. So not only do we concentrate on coordinating beach cleanups, but we're also interested in environmental education about marine debris, and we're hoping that that education will lead to the prevention and reduction of plastics on our coast. So where do we clean? As much of the coast as we possibly can. On the left, you see the map there of the coast of Washington, and those, the northern coast you see is on Olympic National Park. It's a very challenging place to clean due to the wilderness designation. There are currently, the national park doesn't allow boats to land on the shores. It doesn't allow helicopters to land and remove like some of these other techniques that we've seen. So our Coast Saver volunteers have to remove all this debris by hand on their backs. In some cases, that involves hikes 3 miles just to get to the beach, and then another 3 miles to get to the debris, and then carrying it out 6 miles. It's just an incredible effort. We also work with the 5 coastal tribes, and that presents a unique opportunity for our volunteers to be able to access some of these sites that they're not typically able to visit. But the Makah, the Quileute, Ho, and the Quinault people all have been great partners. The south coast of Washington is managed primarily by Washington State Parks. The coast on the south part of the state is much different. It's much flatter, and vehicles in general are allowed to drive. It's considered a highway. And so cleanups could be considered much easier, but at the same time, debris loads are still significant there. One of the recent expansions of our efforts is adding beaches on the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and that's what's illustrated on the map on the bottom there. So we had just the second international coastal cleanup effort in Washington State on September 20th. And so we're slowly growing in our capacity to add cleanups and add beaches. When you look at the situation of tsunami debris in the state, there's certainly it's definitely evident. And yet, there have only been 13 items confirmed by NOAA as definitely being related to the tsunami. And I see that from the reaction on many of your faces that you know that there's a lot more than 13 items that have washed up on the Washington coast, some of which include the 5 boats that washed up in 5 days this last May. Unfortunately, the marine debris reporting line has been discontinued, but they're still taking emails to report, debris, and the state, this alliance, and our partners are also interested in the report of hazardous items, and of course, we're concerned about aquatic invasive species entering our shoreline habitat as well. Recently, Washington Coast Savers teamed up with a Marine Life Center in Port Angeles, Washington. The Fierro Marine Life Center and Washington Coast Savers were awarded a NOAA Marine Debris Program grant. Its focus is on education and action, so the funding is going towards not only supporting the beach cleanups, but then also supporting the environmental education in the coastal communities on the outer coast of Washington and the schools into the Strait of Juan de Fuca. So we believe that combination of action and education is a powerful combination for addressing marine debris. I can honestly say I've only been in the marine debris world for about 1.5 years now, and I'm learning a lot. The learning curve is huge. But I've had the pleasure of meeting with Jean on the outer coast last October, meeting with Senior Counsel Dodo from Seattle this spring, and learning a tremendous amount of how we're all connected. I want to just close by saying I've learned how the North Pacific Gyre connects us. And the challenge of reducing or eliminating plastics in the ocean will only be addressed by working together, state to state, country to country. And I look forward to the workshops tomorrow with all of you, when we can investigate effective ways to create an alliance that addresses, marine pollution around the Pacific Rim. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name's Joy Irby, and I actually live in Portland, Oregon, and I am the Beach and Riverside Cleanup Coordinator for the nonprofit Solve, and also the International Coastal Cleanup Coordinator for the state of Oregon. I'm very happy to speak with all of you today and give you an update on Solve's role in tsunami debris response since 2012. I feel very honored to be here today with representatives across the Pacific Rim, and I'm constantly amazed by the efforts that are shown here today in each one of our U.S. states as well as Canada, and of course at Jean as well. So just a little bit about Solve. Solve is a statewide nonprofit organization that was created in 1969 by Oregon Governor Tom McCall. Today our mission is to bring Oregon citizens together to improve the environment and build a legacy of stewardship. We do this by training volunteer leaders in litter and marine debris cleanups, tree planting projects, and non-native plant removal projects. We feel pretty lucky because we actually had our first coastwide beach cleanup started in 1984, and it was because of the efforts of 2 Oregon citizens that came together and said, what can we do on our Oregon coast in 3 hours? How much can we pick up? And so they actually divided the coast into, I believe at the time it was about 14 different zones, and we had zone captains for each zone who also recruited beach captains. And we had 2,000 volunteers come out for the very first beach cleanup in Oregon to remove 26 tons of debris. And Solve has been lucky to be able to lead that cleanup every single year, twice a year since 1984. So since 1984, we've had 110,000 Solve volunteers remove 1.5 million pounds of debris from all 363 miles of the coast. So after the 2011 earthquake and tsunami, Solve joined other NGOs, the Oregon Tsunami Debris Task Force, government agencies, and other organizations in a collaborative effort to respond to increased accumulation of debris on the Oregon coast. Solve's role focused on creating and coordinating beach cleanups throughout the year,
including the annual coastwide cleanups, one which takes place in the fall and actually took place last Saturday and was part of the International Coastal Cleanup, and one in the spring, which is scheduled again next year on March 28th. On average, more than 8,000 volunteers come out to cleanups each year and remove 100,000 pounds of debris. SOF has also supported several community-led cleanups year-round, many in response to a higher accumulation of debris on our coast since the 2011 tsunami. During these cleanups, SOF partners with many Japan-related organizations. Volunteers have reported finding much less tsunami-related debris since the spring of 2013, and none of the debris from SOLVE cleanups has actually been confirmed as tsunami debris, although many of the items are likely from the tsunami. Although there was a larger accumulation of debris from Japan in April and May of this year due to storms and currents off the coast. Volunteers at the April and May cleanups reported finding many Japanese floats, bottles, and other debris with gooseneck barnacles and other marine organisms attached. So SOF has actually connected with the Japanese American community in Oregon. In our first collaboration during the coastwide cleanup in 2012, over 10 Japan-related organizations with a total of 150 volunteers participated. Collaboration has continued with two main groups, the Japan-America Society of Oregon and Portland Shokakai, a Japanese business association. And I believe that's one of their cleanups up top. Each group brings out volunteers twice a year to our coastwide cleanups and serve as cultural ambassadors to ensure that as many artifacts of cultural value can be identified and preserved. This also helps us to determine how many items are from Japanese origin and not from other Pacific Rim countries. So SOF also works with a group of NGOs called the Oregon Marine Debris Team. These include Surfrider, one of our academic partners, Oregon Sea Grant, Coast Watch, and Wash to Shore. Wash to Shore is actually a really cool organization. If you ever go to their website, they actually take marine debris that we collect on the beaches and turn it into educational art sculptures that have been sent across the country to different informal learning institutions like aquariums. The team was created in 2011 in response to the predicted arrival of tsunami debris on the Oregon coast. The team organized a large conference of governmental agencies that year and also hosted a series of public workshops to prepare communities. We established 14 debris drop-off locations along the coastline, and thousands of SOLVE cleanup bags were distributed for volunteers who wanted to go out on their own. We also worked with local transit station or local haulers along the coast to help pick up those bags. Tsunami debris signs were created and posted at coastal state parks, and you can see one right over there. These are still there today. Rapid response cleanups also took place within communities, and these have been very helpful since 2013, as the accumulation of debris varies throughout the year. Today, the Oregon Marine Debris Team is focusing on a new marine debris monitoring program funded by NOAA at 9 Oregon beach locations to determine the amount and types of debris we are finding over time. The program will continue into 2016 and will write a report. Moving forward, SOLVE will continue to work with our friends both in Oregon and across the Pacific Rim. Thank you to Jean, to the Vancouver Aquarium, and to all of you for coming out today.
Aloha and hello. My name is Megan Lamson. I'm a marine biologist and the project coordinator with Hawaii Wildlife Fund, and I've been helping to remove marine debris from Hawaii Island since 2008. So a brief history about us. Hawaii Wildlife Fund is a small Hawaii-based nonprofit organization dedicated to the conservation of marine wildlife, native marine wildlife in Hawaii, and we've got a variety of conservation, research, and restoration projects throughout the main Hawaiian Islands, mainly focused now on Hawaii Island and Maui. However, we have a long history in marine debris removal. Our co-founder, Bill Gilmartin, was the lead in marine debris removal efforts in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands since the early 1980s. And we've been working to remove marine debris in Hawaii since 1998. So just to orient ourselves, sorry, this map is a little old. It is courtesy of the NOAA Marine Debris Program. This shows a model of simulated drifting particles potentially from the tsunami, and where Hawaii is in relation to this. And thank you, June, in your earlier presentation with a more recent map. So the Hawaiian archipelago extends for over 2,400 kilometers, and we have worked as far as in the northwest as Kure Atoll, and mostly focused here on Hawaii Island. So in terms of Japanese tsunami marine debris items, there have been a total of 22 confirmed items in the state of Hawaii, and you can see these here. That was 4 reported from Midway Atoll, 3 from Kauai, 12 on the island of Oahu, which is also the most populated, 2 from in Lanai, and 1 outside of Maui. However, Hawaii Island is where I live and love and work, and so most of my talk today will be about what we found here. So potential Japanese tsunami marine debris items have been washing up on the southeast end of Hawaii Island since early October 2012. And so there's a question mark behind this because these are not confirmed. As of last month, we have no confirmed Japanese tsunami debris items on Hawaii Island. We have 22 in the state, all of which are northwest of us. So following the October 5th arrival of this really massive yellow drum, and there's a 5th grader there in their first scale and size, we also received at the end of October a large refrigerator, full-size refrigerator, that did have kanji and was identified as being Japanese, but still yet we are not able to say for sure this is from the Japanese tsunami. Also, for a cleanup in March 2013, we've collected a wide variety of marine debris items, potentially from the Japanese tsunami. However, again, these are not confirmed. More recently in June, we collected several other pallets. In July, continued to get oyster buoys, crates, and inclusive of the Japanese boundary survey markers. However, again, not tsunami debris necessarily. But just to give you an example of what something looks like when it washes ashore, I actually brought in a couple objects, and you're welcome to look at these later. These were collected. This was actually found by a visiting couple from the Hokkaido district in a cleanup we hosted at Camilo in July. This is a candy topper to a local candy there. However, and it's got bite marks and that potentially could show ingestion or attempt at eating it from marine wildlife. However, again, not necessarily tsunami debris. And then this past weekend for the International Coastal Cleanup, we identified 2 potential tsunami debris items, and Yoshiko with Jean helped me identify this piece as from the Kesenuma district, and it's potentially from the fishing market there. And I asked Dr. Fujieda earlier today about a ball that we found last weekend, and it was a children's ball. It says Ken Ichiro, and Dr. Shigeru told me that this was actually from an area that was not affected or impacted by the tsunami. So I just wanted to share these with you. One, to let you know that we are still collecting information about potential items that are washing in from Japan, but 2, to remind us that marine debris has been a problem since the early 1960s when we started creating mass amounts of plastic. And so for us, at least in Hawaii, the Japanese tsunami marine debris, thank you, is a small amount of what we're collecting. We're collecting approximately from 12 metric tons to 45 metric tons when we started of marine debris, and only a little bit of these items are from Japan, let alone from the tsunami. So here are some photos. This is courtesy of Kyle Koyanagi with NOAA's Marine Debris Program. Of the 53 actual confirmed Japanese tsunami marine debris items, again, we've had 22 in the state of Hawaii starting in September 2012 with this blue fishing bin this blue bin in Oahu, inclusive of boats and other objects, fishing objects and otherwise. And so with that, I'd just like to conclude by saying that we are probably seeing marine debris objects. We have found the survey stakes, we have found the mortise and tenon lumber and large boat objects, fragments, obviously from the wrecking yard, as early as August 2013. However, we're going to continue to remove marine debris wherever its origin is, and also record and report and try to take notes of things that could potentially be connected to individuals. And we're concerned about invasive species as well. And so we're going to continue our efforts. We have removed a total of 156 metric tons along a 16-kilometer stretch of coastline. And we appreciate being invited here today. Thank you to Jean and also the Vancouver Aquarium and all of our collaborators. I think it's really important for everyone here to be in the room. I'm really impressed by the audience today because marine debris is a multifaceted problem and it's a people problem, and it's going to be innovative people who are going to forge solutions to this problem, and there's a variety of solutions. So thank you for being here in the room and being interested. And with that, I leave you.
So before we bring out our final closing speakers, we're just going to have another quick Q&A session. So if you have any follow-up questions from these last sets of presentations, we will resolve. And if there are any of the speakers from these talks as the questions are being asked, if you wish to answer, please just come up and we'll share the microphone. So without further ado, I believe we have a question in the center back row. So we'll come up with you with a microphone. Thank you.
Hi, John Buchanan from Squamish, BC. A couple of comments. Not confirmed, I hear this from a lot of people. I was listening to the speaker from Alaska, and he had a really good baseline information that showed clearly since the tsunami happened that, they're not confirming, that the pieces actually come from there, but more than likely they do, right? So they've got more than 12 pieces, especially if they got 1,800 big sacks of stuff hanging on the beach. I noticed there was a lot of representation from the US government, from the Japanese government on this. There's a lot of volunteers putting a lot of time and effort into it. But noticeably absent from here, I've noticed, is the BC government. Could you comment on why the BC government is not here today? Or maybe they were just busy, and does any speaker know if we have a plan in BC from the government on this to handle the 12 or 20 confirmed pieces we have?
Yeah, so essentially the question being asked then is in terms of government response in Canada and BC. Most of the groups here working and presenting on Canada are working on behalf in collaboration with their support. So it's really the best answer I can give towards that. It's a new project. It's something that we have a lot of experts and groups here tonight that are representing on their behalf. So it's definitely something I'm really looking forward to seeing how it's going to grow and evolve into something really fantastic. So I appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
Hi, I'm in the back row here. My name is Dolph DeYoung. I'm the Vice President of Conservation and Education at the Aquarium. We did actually speak with Jim Standen, and he was attempting to come tonight, but he couldn't make it. They do want to support this, is the message they sent to me, but he was unable to make it tonight.
Okay, so the BC government at some level has a plan in place to help us.
They've been working closely with everybody you see here, and as I I was speaking with somebody during the break, and they were talking about the relationships that have come out of this disaster. And what's amazing is the coordination we're seeing in British Columbia with all the grassroots folks, municipalities, not-for-profit organizations all coming together. And the government played a real critical role, particularly in the beginning, putting together teams to do that.
Yeah, maybe I'll just quickly mention that the provincial federal government, they committed a Japanese tsunami marine debris coordinating committee, and it consists of 4 subcommittees. One is planning, science and monitoring, communications, and intergovernmental relations. So as a local government employee, I sat on the planning team and helped support the development of 2 phases of planning documents. And the first phase was more about roles and responsibilities, and the second phase was more into marine debris end of life. And then I've also participated in the science and monitoring team in relations to arrival and sightings, as well as providing information about aquatic invasive species. I was also trained through Health Canada to take radiation monitoring, so I have a personal radiation detector. And then there's also the communications and intergovernmental relations team. If that helps.
I think the short answer is there's a lot of people involved to keep track of. It's great. We have a question down in the front we'll get to now.
Yeah, my question is also about the identification process of the marine debris. So I'd love to hear what that process is and what the implications are for the work that you're doing of many of these items, most of these items not yet having been identified.
Great. So the question's about the identification process, and I believe some of our speakers from earlier you have a bit more information of that process. Did you want to come up to the mic? That'd be great. Thank you.
I don't want to speak on behalf of NOAA, but I'm going to anyway. NOAA came up with the idea that this debris could only be called Japanese tsunami debris if it was confirmed. Confirmed meant actually being able to take a piece of debris and trace it back to its point of origin in Japan by some identification mark. So that severely limited the amount of debris that could be technically classified as tsunami debris. And we've had some debate back and forth over the years about that, because clearly that huge pulse of styrofoam and urethane and building lumber and everything else that we see along our shorelines, there was no other possible source for that. So by saying there's only 22 or 32 pieces of confirmed tsunami debris, just minimized the problem all up and down the coast for the local folks here, so they never realized how horrible this problem was. And so in the last year or so, we like those volleyballs I showed you, they're definitely from Japan. They had names of people in schools and stuff on them. We took them back, or had them sent back to Japan and given to the schools. We've done that before with other items, and they aren't in NOAA's database because we just thought that was counterproductive to do that. But that's how that all plays out, and I don't know that that's been very useful over the years. Thank you.
Have any other questions? Yep, in the back. Thank you.
I know there's a number of places along the BC coast that are very remote, and some of these are only accessed by kayakers and such. And until the crew can get in to do the cleanup, is there a contact number or something that we should try to call if we can identify or have questions about aquatic invasive species?
Do any of you want to speak to that? Yeah, do you want?
There is a number, I just
Okay. Carla's is going to come back up. She does. There is a number we're aware of, or we might just need to dig that information up to share.
Yeah, I could find that document for you. It is on the Ministry of Environment website. So if you Google MOE tsunami debris, the provincial government put together a one-page information document, and it has emails and phone numbers on what to do if you come across biofouling species, but also what to do if you come across hazardous material and other items like that.
And I'll also add to that, I believe we have it linked through our own Great Canadian Shoreline Cleanup website. If you go to shorelinecleanup.ca, and then we have a link towards our tsunami cleanup efforts, there's a link there for more background information as well as a page to what Carla just referenced. So you'll be able to find a wealth of information there. Do we have any other, yes, a few rows down?
Me again. I think that the peak of the debris was supposed to arrive sometime in 2014, but I can't recall exactly. I'm wondering if anyone available that has been speaking has any idea where we are relative to the peak. I think the Alaskan people found a bit of a decline in 2014, but not necessarily the finale. So I'm just wondering if anybody can respond to that.
Yeah, you guys can both come up if you wish. Sure. You were looking to know more in terms of where the peak will be arriving on the shorelines. You had read somewhere about it appearing this year, and you're wondering what the latest news on that expectation might be. Yeah. And then we're going to be wrapping up our questions very shortly and moving on to our final remarks.
Because the debris comes in a lot of different categories, and a lot of it is what we call high windage debris, styrofoam, bottles, floats, and things like that. That material came very quickly and peaked very quickly. We were finding, as you saw from those graphs, that the styrofoam made it to Alaska in 5 months. And you figure a mile an hour by the wind and the currents. It doesn't take that long, months to get there. The heavier stuff now is coming. So I don't think we're going to see that huge peak we did with the styrofoam and the lightweight bottles and things like that, but we are going to see a steady increase in the heavier stuff in Alaska. I think the heavier stuff hit down here in BC a lot sooner than it did up there because the currents directly come this direction. So different categories will have different peaks, and I think we'll keep seeing the spin out of this for years to come. And we'll see tsunami debris for probably a decade, my thinking is.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question up on the other side there, and then we'll move on to our final speaker.
Yeah, looking at the types of rubbish that you have there, like plastic bottles, has there been any contact with industry? And if so, what's their feedback like?
I personally have not been in contact with any industry. I don't know if I can speak to that specifically in terms of the connection of back to them to make that change. I think in terms of speaking from our Great Canadian Shoreline Cleanup personally, and some of the others that we've heard of, we're really looking at these volunteers to generate that awareness, and through the awareness that we can try to prevent our actions and then work collaboratively towards if we change our behaviors and we use them less and there's less of a demand for these types of items, then it can only start to have an impact at the industry level as well. Though I definitely do see your point in terms, it goes both ways. It's the long and convoluted answer to that. Great. So thanks again for the amazing questions. There's definitely lots of speakers and lots of wealth of, we could endlessly speak about these topics. I am now going to bring up Professor Shigeru Fujiyada. I'm sorry about the name pronunciation, to have some summary statements. Thank you.
So long discussion. Thank you very much. My name is Shigeru Fujiyada. I'm from South Kyushu, Kagoshima. I belong to Kagoshima University and the Japanese NGO GEAN members. I usually studying marine debris in Japan. Today's this last presentation is I talk about the general overview about biggest lesson learned from tsunami debris include the result of our tsunami debris study. The first lesson is that washed up debris caused by tsunami is a predictable disaster because we have not only current and wind data, but also the outflow time and the outflow area, so that the flow of tsunami debris can be simulated, such as a typhoon or a cyclone. However, it is not enough to make a closer simulation because the percentage of drifting condition windage and outflow volume is estimated at the simple condition. Japanese government estimate that it is also broken house building debris and the drifting condition windage is half and half. But is it true? If you hope that you get more accurate result, we have to collect more real data of drifting condition and outflow volume of tsunami debris. So we tried a visual observation with 10 training vessels of Japanese fisheries high school and students in the west parts of North Pacific Ocean from October 2011. And the result were provided to the Japanese government and NOAA. They got some useful data on the North Pacific Ocean. Purple dot are daily update simulation result of Dr. Maximenko and half an hour of IPRC in Hawaii University in August 2012. Square and triangle are drifting confirmed point of drifting debris. Crossing is unconfirmed area. Both purple dot and confirmed point are overlap. And I also get a chance on the board my university vessel from Japan to Hawaii in summer 2012. Blue bubble, blue bubble are drifting density of marine debris in this voyage. This result also gave the closer agreement with the previous simulation data results. And one more, we need a percentage of drifting condition because of getting a closer simulation result. This figure is a percentage of each drifting condition got by this visual observation. High windage and early washed up items on the water is 42%. However, main simulation item of Japan MOE, half and half, is 20%. Nature often betrays our expectations. The best way to get true information from ocean is visual observation by vessels. On the other hand, on the estimated area that tsunami debris will be washed up on the shore, we learned that it is necessary to take measures as follows. The first, we must deliver accurate information to students, but the speed is more needed in the early stage. And we must confirm the washed up article on the cost, it is necessary to conduct monitoring regularly from before tsunami by a common method, for example, ICC, and using indicator item in wide areas. And we must build a safe collecting system with local people and all persons concerned. And lastly, tsunami debris is tsunami debris is not originally marine debris. Oh, sorry, yeah. This is a result of the visual observation on the North Pacific Ocean in summer 2012. I have read that over 80%, 80% is plastics. If the tsunami debris is of plastics, it will be broken into the pieces with the lapse of time, when it eventually becomes marine debris. And one more, the disaster happen anytime. We can not stop tsunami, and we cannot correct the tsunami debris as quickly as we hope for, and we must correct from long term. However, we can make a provision against the tsunami debris, and we can minimize damage by tsunami debris. The last, we learned a lot of these important lessons through the cleanups at the marine debris and discussion about tsunami debris, and eating local food together on each country with while everyone kept smiling. Thank you for cooperation, Vancouver Aquarium, and the participants and the speakers, everyone. From now on, also, we will learn more together. Thank you very much.
最後に、一般社団法人議員の金子と言います。ご挨拶を最後させていただきたいと思います。で、
Finally, I'm Kaneko. I'm with the Jean, and I'd like to say a few words of closing.
今夜のシンポジウムでこの問題に対しての理解が少しでも進んだのであれば成功かなと思っています。
I believe that I can say this symposium was successful if everybody's understanding on this issue has got a little bit better.
で今夜のシンポジウムと同様のシンポジウムを日本国内で来月11月の15日に開催します。
And we are planning to have this kind of symposium on November 15th in Japan next month.
その会場は今日スピーカーでいらしている櫻井さんが関わっていらっしゃるメイプル館、名取市のメイプル館で行います。
And the symposium will be held in the Canada-Japan Friendship Pavilion, which is built in Natori City, and Mr. Sakurai talked about it.
でそこで今日の成果も報告する予定にしています。
And we are planning to report on the results of the symposium at the next symposium in Japan.
最後に、今回のシンポジウムはバンクーバー水族館と共催することができました。でそれにあたっては、お名前をそれぞれお出しする時間はありませんけれども、さまざまな方々が協力していただきました。
And finally, I'd like to say that this symposium was co-hosted by the Vancouver Aquarium, and I don't have time to name all the people who were involved in the organization of this symposium, but a lot of people from the aquarium cooperated with us to hold this symposium.
皆様方に感謝を申し上げて終わりたいと思います。あり
So
がとうござ
I'd
いました
like to close my remark by thanking all the people who were involved in organizing the symposium. Thank you very much.
Great. So again, I'd just like to close out the evening by thanking our speakers who have all traveled here, some from a great distance, to share their experience and knowledge. So thank you very much for that. I know I've personally learned a great deal, and I hope that everyone here who's come showing an interest in learning more about the impact of these items and what we can do has learned a bit. And I'd like to thank you as well for attending this evening. I'd also like to thank Jean's organization for putting on the symposium and reaching out to us to connect so that we could help you facilitate that. As well, I'd like to thank my fellow Vancouver Aquarium staff for helping to make this evening a great success, and I hope that everyone really enjoyed themselves and learned quite a bit. As you do leave this evening, there are a few handouts if you don't have them already, just on the railing down there. Please feel free to take a copy with you. And that there is a card that Jonathan from our aquarium who works with the programs has left his information at the front, that if you need any more questions and follow up from this evening, you're welcome to grab one of those. So thank you, everybody.